to another episode of TREW. My name is Nick Gelfand.
I'm Leslie Lambert.
Today we're going to discuss our first-time home buyers. It's going to be a first episode in a series of advice for first-time home buyers. A lot of the time, first-time home buyers don't really know where to begin.
Yeah, I mean that's the number one question is I've decided I want to buy a house. Where do I start? And so I would say step one could be one of two things. Find a great local lender and ask for their recommendations for a really good local real estate agent to work with.
Absolutely. Or find a great real estate agent, which would later lead you to a great local lender.
Absolutely. And I think those kind of referral recommendations are really helpful, especially for a first-time buyer, because very often there are lenders and agents that have great working relationships together and operate really as a team and can be a great resource for any buyer. But especially if you're a first-time buyer, you're looking for a lot more information and maybe a little hand-holding, and having a team in place that already is familiar with working with each other can really be a huge asset for that purchase for those buyers. So after they've found a great lender and been pre-approved and found a great realtor, step two would be
to decide what you want in a house. What are the must-haves? Maybe put a list together. And it's actually not a bad idea, in my opinion, to actually go see the house that fits that list exactly. And potentially it's going to cost a little bit more money than a typical home buyer can afford, but I feel it's a reality check that sometimes is necessary.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think as a first-time home buyer, it's really important to stick to your comfort zone for purchasing and not get swayed into overspending, which is very tempting. But it's your first time and you're not used to budgeting for all of the things that a home might come into play. Most first-time home buyers are used to budgeting for their monthly payment, which used to be rent. And that's the easy part. The hard part with homeowning is there's these unexpected little things that crop up, like maybe there's a huge winter storm and you've got a tree that needs to come down, or the water heater blows and you've got to replace it, and you need to be prepared to take on those unexpected things. So I always advise be conservative, but I think the reality check point's a good one, because if they go see, wow, we're being a little unrealistic with our wants, we can't afford that much house, or we don't want to pay that much every month, so we better revisit our thoughts.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's also important to be realistic about what you need now for a home and maybe 5 years down the line, but don't buy that big McMansion or something like that if in fact you don't need it. If it's just one of you, two of you, three of you, you don't need a 5,000 square foot home, because people sometimes forget that although you may be able to afford the mortgage, the principal, the taxes, there's other expenses in a home. There's utility bills. There's unexpected expenses, like you said. And there's just so much out there, especially at first-time homebuyers. I find that they typically don't have furniture. And a lot of the time, that's a reality check, is going out to see.
Appliances aren't always included in the purchase. Sometimes you have to buy appliances.
What a dining room set costs at your local furniture store. You might be actually surprised. And we should also say that first-time home buyers are not necessarily young. It's not really an age. It's just somebody who has either been living, with mom and dad. Maybe he's been renting for years and just beginning to...
Could be a divorce and it's their first time buying a house on their own.
Absolutely.
Without their partner's, income or advice.
Absolutely. So this is pertinent information for anybody who just has not gone by themselves through a process of purchasing a home.
Yeah. And keep an open mind and let your realtor, if you're hiring an agent that you trust, which you better be, then you need to take their advice and you need to let them guide you a little bit, because they very often know exactly what you might need, even if you don't know what you need. Oftentimes I'll take a list of homes from my clients and they'll say, we want to see, these 3 homes we want to see. And I'll say, okay, I'm going to throw a couple surprises in too. And I just take them to something, and you'd be surprised how many times they end up buying one of the surprise houses, because I have a feel for what they need and I can see that the house has got potential that they may be overlooked.
Absolutely.
So trust your agent. They're trying to help.
And using a buyer agent actually does not cost you directly any sort of money. It actually isn't already technically included in the purchase. The way real estate transactions work and commissions work for agents, the seller actually has agreed upon a commission with a selling agent, and the seller's agent in turn shares a portion of the commission with the buyer's agent. So there's really no reason not to use somebody who will be on your side the whole time fighting for you as if they were in your shoes.
Exactly. The other thing is you need to dedicate some time to this. If you're serious about wanting to buy a home, it is a buyer's market right now, but there are still homes that get snapped up with even bidding wars if they're a really good deal. And of course everybody wants a really good deal, so everybody's sort of, leaping up on those. So you need to you need to know that you're going to be able to give your agent some free time to go see houses when they say, hey, a great one came on, it's not going to last, then you should go and be ready to do that.
Exactly, and I think the word is perspective. You really need to get a perspective of the market. You need to get an idea of what, taking into account the list that you originally made of all the must-haves. Also, take into account your price point and see where they meet. What you'll find oftentimes as you continue, seeing houses, week after week, you will start taking some things off that list that you originally thought were must-haves in a perfect world in your dream home. You will say, well, maybe I can live without this, but there certainly will be things that it will re-emphasize that you really must have, whether it's the big kitchen or a house that needs no work whatsoever or a large backyard. I guess it depends. I mean, if you're somebody who entertains. So these are all things that you may not take off your list, but a one-car garage versus a two-car garage or no garage at all, may be something that
you might decide you can live without or with something that, because absolutely. The rest of it is so
absolutely
so right. And then you need to have all the deciding parties with you when you see the property. So if you are a couple buying the house, both members of the family should be there. If you have parents that are going to be part of the decision-making process, they should be there with you. Whoever is going to ultimately weigh in and be part of this purchasing decision needs to see all of the homes. And you need to prioritize that, because it's very difficult for people to make a decision if they haven't experienced that process that gives them the perspective that Nick is talking about.
Absolutely. And from my experience, if one of your parents is going to be gifting you some money, there's a good chance they're going to want to see the house that they're giving you the money for. Mm-hmm. So it's a very important to bring them into the transaction as early as possible. First of all, you trust them. They always want what's best for you. So there's really no reason not to bring them in early. You don't want them to show up at inspections and completely ruin your dream, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And at a certain point also, I think, especially when you're a young first-time buyer, you have to acknowledge that this is your adult decision too. And although that's sometimes hard to do when there's parents involved, I do sometimes advise my buyers, if the parents aren't actually purchasing the property for them or with them, who's making these payments? Who's ultimately owning this house? At a certain point, you have to be the grown-up and make the grown-up decisions. Sometimes that's the answer. But remember, buying your first home is a huge moment in your life. It's very exciting and it's very emotional. And so you want to do as much preparing as you possibly can before the emotions and excitement get involved, so that when you find the right one, you can really just be excited and enjoy the process instead of being stressed or anxiety ridden about it.
Absolutely. Buying a home is, it's the American dream. It's almost like a rite of passage for most people. I would just advise that, get together a good team of people around you, and your real estate agent is actually going to be a perfect person to start with, mm-hmm. Or a mortgage person. But assemble a team. It is a team process. There's a lot of players in the game, essentially. Your real estate agent, mortgage person, your attorney, your inspector, any other inspections you might have. Those specific people to the situation. So it is a team effort. And I think if everybody's on the same page and everybody's doing their part, it's actually a wonderful process.
Oh, it's one of the most fun things I do as a real estate agent. I absolutely love helping people find their first home.
Absolutely. How do you find? How do you deal with? Obviously, you've run into couples that you walk into. The couple themselves are not on the same page.
They are not?
Yeah, I find it hilarious, actually.
I tell them that I'd be happy to sell them 2 houses.
Yeah, exactly.
If you can't decide on one, I'm perfectly happy to sell you 2.
Yeah.
And sometimes that makes them laugh and realize, oh,
right.
wait a minute, we need to get on the same page.
It's almost entertaining for us, I think, when we walk through a house with a couple that, you know, they've never really talked about houses specifically. You know, one wants a ranch, one wants a colonial. One wants a huge yard, one wants no yard because they have to actually maintain it. Mm-hmm. One must have a garage. I mean, it is fun.
Oh, honey, don't you love this stone fireplace? And the husband goes, ew, that old bratty thing, I hate country. And she's like, what? You know?
But I think the important life lesson in that is, if that is the case in your situation, that is normal. It happens to a lot of people. And sooner or later, you kind of mesh into and get on the same page.
Either that or the husband just gets tired and lets the wife buy whatever she wants anyway.
Which is true.
Well, either way, no matter what your home buying process is, we wish you well, and we hope that you have happy house hunting.
Absolutely. And if you want to ask us any questions about it, feel free to reach out to us.
So, from Leslie
and Nick,
we'll see you next time.